If I could be so kind to ask all of you to take your seats, and we will start our public hearing on the budget. This is an opportunity for the senators, if they feel compelled and persuasive enough to address the budget amendments that they have put in. As I look around the room, I see that there have been a number of citizens who have come to join us, and we want to give you an opportunity to be heard, not necessarily an opportunity to be loquacious. So what we are going to do is we're going to start the timer at 3 minutes, which will encourage you to be concise, and we will see how that does. So we have a sign-up list, and Senator Suderline, it appears that you are first, and if you do have a budget number, that would be helpful, sir.
All right. Thank you to our co-chairs and Finance Committee for this opportunity. I have two budget amendments before you. The first is item 82 1S. This is a budget amendment accompanying my bill, Senate Bill 262, which would provide an adoption leave benefit for state employees when they adopt infants in their first year of life. The bill is pretty similar to what we saw last year. It still has not been heard yet in the General Laws Committee. It was reported out of the Senate last year and included in the Senate budget, but the House did not act as favorably on it, and so it's back again. The number that you see there, a little under 840,000, that presumes a 10% eligibility, which I think it's probably a lot lower, closer to 2%, which would take the cost to the Commonwealth to a little under 170,000. But I put in the much higher number. I think it's about a fifth of this, just for you all, your benefit, to see that it would be nowhere close to that. But that's where we are. Do you have any questions on that one, or would you like me to move on to my next one?
I will be surprised if there will be a lot of
Very
questions
good.
today.
My second one is a language amendment. It's item 4-5.041S. It provides that there would be no expenditures from the general or non-general fund for abortion services beyond what's required by federal law. This is similar to the Senate's position in previous years, and I'd encourage you all to include it in the Senate budget proposal this year. And that completes my proposal.
Thank you very much, Senator Suderline, for setting an extraordinarily good example, sir.
There you go. I hope you'll act favorably accordingly. Thank you.
That we will look upon that graciously in the budget, because you have set such a good example, and we will see if Senator Cosgrove wants to try to replicate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll just say, show me the money, and I can be done. Mr. Chairman, thank you for your time. I won't impose much on your time. I have several budget amendments here. The first budget amendment I'd like to speak to is item 464, number 1S. It's a request for $2.5 million. This money has been put forth to the city of Chesapeake in the past. This money is used with a matching amount from the city of Chesapeake to buy up land that's encroaching around the Fentress carrier landing field. Oceana is where the master jet base is, but they actually practice the carrier landings at the Fentress facility. The city of Chesapeake is buying up the properties around there so that the encroachment doesn't happen and we won't be as vulnerable to BRAC as we were in the past. Secondly, Mr. Chairman, I have a group of amendments together, item 181, number 1S. These amendments were brought forth from a study group performed by Jay Kotz and a group of extraordinarily intelligent scientists and engineers dealing with aerospace and aviation. These sets of budget amendments, it totals $1.2 million. But what it will do is provide opportunities for STEM education in the aviation and aerospace fields. There's a lot of work that went into this over 2 years. I was privileged to serve on that study committee, and I hope that you'll look at these with a happy eye. Also, Mr. Chairman, I have item 427-1S. deals with the E911 funding. Under the new formula, many cities, including the city of Chesapeake, the city of Virginia Beach, city of Norfolk, are realizing an extremely large reduction in funding because of the new formula. The city of Chesapeake will lose almost $400,000. The city of Virginia Beach will lose $400,000, and the city of Norfolk is going to lose almost $300,000 under the new formula. There's money in the account to make up this shortfall, and I hope that the Budget Committee will look at that as well. And finally, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to carry something that's a little unusual. I do not represent any part of the Shenandoah Valley, but I do have a budget amendment for $2.5 million for Shenandoah University. And people will say, well, that's a private college. Why are we doing that? My wife and I both attended Shenandoah Conservatory of Music. We were there for our 40th reunion, and they have done amazing things there. But they've also built a very large field house. Now, the $2.5 million is half of what the generator would cost for this field house. And the reason I put that in is because that field house is going to act as an emergency operations shelter for disasters, weather, and that type of thing for the entire surrounding area. So I hope that you look favorably on that, and thank you for your time.
Well, if we had enough time, knowing what a wonderful voice you have, we'd invite you to sing Shenandoah, but I think we're going to pass on it
Some other
today.
time. Thank you, sir.
All right. Next is Senator Spruill.
Mr. Chairman, John's a nice person. Give him all his money, please. Thanks so much. I have three, Mr. Chairman. It's item 13611S, direct aid to public education. This amendment increased the percentage of Virginia preschool initiative slots that can be filled based on local establishment from 15% to 30% for free lunch for kids. That's one. Number two, Mr. Chairman, is item 445, item 1S. Amendment increased the amount of bonds authorized for the Commonwealth Capital Transit Fund to the $130 million level recommended by the General Assembly Transit Capital Revenue Advisory Board. Now, Mr. Chairman, with that, so do my 3 minutes on the third bill, and I save time, but that counts towards my last one. Bless your heart. The last one, Mr. Chairman, is item 30330S. Mr. Chairman, this one, I gave a handout to all the members on the commission. On this one, I would love someone from the city of Chesapeake to come up. Chesapeake, Mr. Chairman, back in the day was a small hospital, and the money was generated from the people in the community. And the hospital was approved by the General Assembly, and so it's a public hospital by the General Assembly, and it now needs help. And I gave a handout to you already, Mr. Chairman, and would love someone from Chesapeake to come up to explain what time left to explain this to you. Okay. Please.
We do have the handout, so
yes, sir.
That's in front of us.
Thank you so
very
much, Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Spruill. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, for the opportunity to be here today to represent Chesapeake Regional Medical Center in our request for a budget amendment to provide additional funding.
Would you be so generous to share with us who you are, sir?
Oh, sure. My name is Stephen McDonald, and I'm the Chief Financial Officer at Chesapeake Regional Medical Center.
Welcome, Mr. McDonald.
Well, thank you very much. So I'm presenting our request for a budget amendment to provide additional funding to partially offset Medicaid funding shortfalls. We distributed 3 graphs which illustrate the uncompensated care of providing care to all Medicaid patients, uncompensated charity care costs, plus the cost of bad debt expense. The first graph shows the results for our most recent fiscal year ended 6/30/17. It's the pie chart. Chesapeake provided $21.5 million of unreimbursed care in fiscal year 17. This total includes the uncompensated cost of care provided to all Medicaid patients, $6.7 million, uncompensated charity costs, $1.9 million, plus the cost of bad debt expense, $12.9 million. The second graph illustrates the most recent 3-year history of Medicaid and reimbursed cost. Chesapeake's payment shortfall to the full cost of Medicaid care for the past 3 years is as follows. In 2015, $5.7 million. 2016, $6.2 million. 2017, $6.7 million. this funding shortfall has a significant negative impact on our operations. The additional data point shows our budget amendment request totaling $3.35 million, which equals approximately 1/2 of the Medicaid unreimbursed cost for FY17. The final graph shows the 3-year trend for the total uncompensated care costs Chesapeake Regional Medical Center, and it ranges from $24.7 million in 15 to $21.5 million in FY17. As you can see, Chesapeake is experiencing tremendous amounts of unreimbursed costs of care provided to Medicaid patients. As an independent public hospital, it is becoming increasingly difficult to absorb the unreimbursed costs and continue to provide the quality of care and needed services our community expects and needs, especially the underserved patients in our community. To better meet the healthcare needs and growing demands of the people we serve, and to bolster our thin operating margins to ensure financial viability, the authority respectfully requests that the General Assembly amend its budget for 2018 to 2020 to reimburse Chesapeake an additional $3.35 million per year, an effective Medicaid reimbursement rate of 87% of cost. The $3.35 million represents 1/2 of Chesapeake Regional's unreimbursed Medicaid costs for FY17. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee.
Thank you very much for coming up from Chesapeake to be with us today, and thank you, Senator Spruill, for bringing that forward.
Mr. Chairman?
Thank you so much.
Oh, you go ahead. I was wondering if I could ask the gentleman a question.
Certainly, Senator Howell.
Were we to expand Medicaid, would that help you with your unreimbursed expenses?
Well, to the extent Medicaid would be expanded and it would approximate the 87% of costs that we are seeking, then that would be essentially achieving the same goal.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. McDonald, is it?
Yes.
Okay, if this public hospital were to receive this appropriation, how would that help the community?
Well, let me tell you what we're doing now. So right now, we sponsor many community benefit programs, one being the Chesapeake Care Clinic. It provides medical and dental services for the indigent and uninsured. Costs anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million a year. We have a transitional care clinic, basically for any patient discharged from the hospital that has no primary care, provides needed medical and dental services. Our cost of that is about $1 million per year. We have a mobile mammo van, sees about 1,000 patients a year. We have many, many programs. And then these are programs that without this funding, would become jeopardized. And these dollars can help us to sustain these programs, as well as to create even more programs and trying to serve the needs of the South Norfolk area, potentially with pharmacy services, primary care services, et cetera. So we would definitely use these to sustain our current programs and to grow more programs for the underserved patients in our community.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald, for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Spruill. Next is Senator Sturtevant.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Got 3 budget amendments to address briefly. The first one is item 136, number 10S, and it's regarding pay raises for public school teachers. The former governor's proposed budget included a 2% pay raise for public school teachers, but that would not kick in until the end of the biennium. This budget amendment that I have introduced would be for a 4% raise, but that would kick in earlier in July rather than waiting until the end of the biennium. And the reason I introduced this budget amendment is last year Virginia teachers made on average about $7,500 less per year than the national average for teacher salaries. And the VDOE's teacher salary report for 2016-2017 indicated that Virginia has actually one of the lowest average teacher salaries in the country. Maryland, by comparison, is the 9th best in the country. District of Columbia is the 2nd. And for context and comparison, Kentucky is actually 26th, ranked 26th in teacher salary in the country. And so just as many of us in the private sector tightened our belts during the Great Recession, Now that the economy is improving and we're making investments, we should make those investments, especially in our public school teachers. Second budget amendment, Mr. Chairman, is number 136, number 8S. I introduced a similar budget amendment last year that was included in the budget, and this is at the request of the greater YMCA partnership. Last year, we appropriated $300,000 for a summer school program that was put on by the YMCA in various cities around the Commonwealth. And that was a very successful, data-driven summer school program that helped 220 children across the Commonwealth. Oftentimes, we will see students actually lose knowledge and understanding in reading and math over the course of the summer. The students who participated in this summer school program actually gained a month in reading and 2 months in math. And this program is specific for high-risk students in Title I schools. So there's been a very good return on investment for the students who have gone through this program. And the idea this year would be to increase that number to 1,000 students. And what's most important, I think, to remember about this program is the money is only provided to the YMCA if it is not used by public schools for summer school. So if there is extra money left over for summer school programs, is this money then provided to the YMCA? And I see that my time is up. If I may mention one final budget amendment, Mr. Chairman. This is item 449, number 1S. We've spent a lot of money investing in the Port of Virginia. We also have the Port of Richmond here in the Richmond area. One of the things that we need to do that has been shown is to improve access to and from the Port of Richmond. And there is a study that has been requested, a feasibility study that's been requested by the Richmond Regional Transportation Planning Organization. Doing this feasibility study will get us to that 30% design phase that then makes us eligible to compete for funding through smart scale and other public-private funding opportunities. And so this would be a real opportunity for economic investment, not just in the Port of Richmond, but also the Port of Virginia as well. I thank the committee.
Thank you very much, and thanks for giving us that feedback on that YMCA partnership. Next is Senator Reeves.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to start with 361, number 4S. It's taking the battlefield at Brandy Station and giving it to the state at no cost. It winds up being revenue neutral. That property right now is owned by the Civil War Preservation Trust. And it would create about a 1,205-acre real property at Brandy Station and Cedar Mountain battlefields. My next budget request is 418-1S. In front of each of you, you'll have an award. I forgot the budget amendment last year, but it's a Virginia General Assembly Commendation Medal in which if you all had a National Guardsman in your area who went above and beyond in a snowstorm, did something extraordinary, you as a General Assembly member could put that soldier or airman in for an award through his chain of command and actually present an award to them that they could wear on their uniform. That's a whopping $8,740 to outfit the whole program. The last one is a big ask, but I think it's a big reward. I have Colonel Dunn here from the Virginia National Guard who runs the facility out with our air wing. Colonel Dunn, if you'll make your way up here. It's a $4.5 million general fund ask that starts the program for pre-construction at Sandston, which is where we're currently housing our Blackhawks and fixed wings, where the current headquarters is of our Guard there. This is where they're talking about doing it. If we do not start this program, we stand to lose our air assets in Virginia, which would greatly diminish our ability to deploy both in stateside, inside on our missions that we do for natural disaster, as well as the ability to go forward on the war on terror. The 4.5 gets us almost $90 million from DOD, and I have Colonel Dunn here to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Senator Ruth. Mr. Chairman? Thank you. Questions or spiel?
An abbreviated spiel would be welcome, sir.
So we have a national and a state mission. The national mission is to generate forces for the national defense. The state mission is to provide for the public safety and security of the Commonwealth. We have 27 helicopters and 1 fixed-wing aircraft to support those missions. We train with them to have our soldiers ready to deploy, get the mission done in combat, and bring everybody home. On the state side, we provide support to emergency disaster response, law enforcement, federal, state, local, and various other state active duty tasks. Those aircraft are housed at Richmond Airport in our Army Aviation Support Facility. The lease runs out in 2032. The airport is building a runway over top of that facility. We've been put on notice that we need to find a new home. Army Air Force aviation structure, it rises, it falls, it gets reapportioned. If we don't have a facility to move those aircraft to in time, somebody will figure out that they can move our aircraft and solve a problem of funding it. Right now, we have a window of opportunity at the federal level to compete for an $89 million new facility adjacent to the airport. It has some soils conditions with the land, which this state money would address. The federal money requires that the land be buildable. This money addresses that issue, solves that problem, and at that point, we're highly competitive to get that $89 million to build the facility. Now, we looked at 6 locations. An additional advantage to this location is that we have an existing armory on that site that we are abandoning and moving that unit, our headquarters, over to DSCR where we're building a facility. Because we can reuse that facility, we don't have to build that portion of the project. That portion of the project, being a readiness center, requires a 25% state match. It's a $30 million facility, which would be a $7.5 million state investment to get the full capability elsewhere. So while I'm asking for $4.5 million to support the federal and state mission here in the Commonwealth, we look at it from the perspective that if we were to go elsewhere, we would be looking at asking for $7.5 million. So we see it as a cost-effective way to try to do the job well for the taxpayers.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for your service, sir. Secondly, thanks for sharing the most commonsensical thing I've heard out of Congress in years, and that is that they want a facility on buildable land. That's very encouraging. Audit, but thank you for coming and spending your time this afternoon.
One question.
Senator Hanger, yes, sir.
Thank you. Just one quick question. Can the funding be contingent on the federal grant?
So that is an option. Okay. If we start the pre-consolidation first, we appear more competitive. But if there's strong language that makes the money available, that sends a message, albeit a slightly weaker message, but a message.
Thank you.
Okay. Senator Reeves, thank you for bringing that forward. Thanks, we appreciate that very much. Next is Senator McPike.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will be going through half of my budget amendments today to abbreviate the length and numerous items you have to take a look at today. I'll start with item number 136, number 13S. This is on language for use of equitable distribution of at-risk funds and to ensure the certification of the ratio of 1 to 250 counselors for those at-risk funding line programs. The next item is item 1051S. This is an item that would provide, this is an issue that many of you know. I've carried cancer presumption bills several years in a row. This one, after discussing with the Virginia Department of Health as well as different stakeholders, a way to start to really look at the prevention side of things and to look, we have many areas in Virginia, not in my area actually, but rural areas that don't have second set of gear. Fire gear, when you wear it, it absorbs their carcinogens. You don't have time to get it off and actually wash the gear. It takes roughly a day to go through a wash cycle in order to get it back in service. This grant program is a 50-50 grant match program to localities so they can buy second set of gear. So starting to look at the preventative side of this issue, where we know we have cancer rates in some forms of cancer up to 100% higher than the normal population. So while it wouldn't impact Prince William County per se, we already have second set of gear, and some localities do. Predominantly rural and other areas do not have those. So this is a means to start to address this area from a little bit different angle. And happy to address any questions on that issue. The next is item 120, number 1S. This is a veteran entrepreneurial capital resource program to establish a new micro loan program to our veteran small businesses in Virginia. So this is something that does not exist, and we've been working with the Department of Veteran Services as well as Virginia Small Business Financing Authority. They have, I think, up to 10 programs that they administer today. So this would be one of those ones that would help target Virginia veteran small businesses. And likewise, there's a common language in the House on this effort as well. But this would provide a framework of microloans, low-interest loans up to $50,000 to start up businesses for qualifying veteran-owned businesses here in Virginia. Happy to address any questions as well as some of the coordination with our Virginia Small Business Financing Authority with you. Lastly, Mr. Chairman, is a item number 407, number 2S. This is to support Senate Bill 644 in relation to collection of DNA samples. I know considerable work has been done this year on DNA samples. Those recommendations of work did not include indecent exposure, so this is a placeholder line item 50. I believe it's going to be de minimis based on previous bills and estimates, but I've put a placeholder in. I do think it's an important one. Indecent public exposure or public masturbation has resulted in some fairly significant cases that have not been caught. For instance, the East Coast rapists assaulted and raped 22 women over the period of 17 years, and some other cases that had much earlier prior indecent exposure cases. This is something that we don't cover today, but is an important initiative to consider. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Senator McPike, for bringing those matters for us. Next is Senator McClellan. Jennifer?
Good afternoon. I'm going to try to group mine together in the interest of time. The first two...
You got a lot of grouping to do there.
No, well, the first two I had requested because when I've introduced a bill, I thought there might have been a fiscal impact, but as of yet, I've not seen a fiscal impact statement. And so that is item 32911S, which would have provided funding for Senate Bill 287 that we've passed already, but as of today, they don't have a fiscal impact statement. Similarly, item 13425S, I have a bill that reported out of a subcommittee to have the superintendent of public instruction to create and implement biannually a teacher climate survey to try to collect data on why our teachers are leaving the profession. As of now, there is no fiscal impact, but there might be a fiscal impact statement before that bill is acted on, so that's a placeholder. The next group are two budget amendments to get at the school to prison pipeline. One of the things we have heard consistently from our schools, which I agree with, as we have tried to address the use of out-of-school suspension, long-term suspension and expulsion, is they need more resources to address some of these issues, and I agree with them. So the first is item 13614S. I think this is probably the most important. One of the issues our teachers have faced is during the recession, when we cut, we put a cap on the support staff and funding for support staff. The effect of that has been in a lot of our schools to take out social workers, counselors, nurses, some of the professionals that we're dealing with and providing some of the wraparound services, particularly in our at-risk schools. As a result, our teachers now have become social workers, counselors, clinicians, and they're not trained to do those jobs. And what we're seeing is behavior that in some cases is a symptom of a larger issue that needs to be addressed by one of the other professionals. Our teachers are having to deal with, and it's leading them to turn to, in some cases, expulsion and out-of-school suspension. Similarly, item 135-6S, this provides funding to allocate for our schools' implementation of evidence-based alternatives to suspension and expulsion. And then one more, just because some of these are self-explanatory, but item 136-9S is a pretty big one, but it was requested by the city of Richmond. We've done this before. This is a hold harmless provision for those school divisions that are hurt as a result of benchmarking. This was requested by the Richmond School Board, and one of their members had some testimony he wanted to give to you, so in the interest of time, we're going to email that to you. 136-12S is increases the at-risk add-on program to a range of between 1% and 20%. Item 386-2S would provide funding to expand the number of inmates that can take class through the community college system to provide GEDs. And then finally, two more. Item 303-35S is a Medicaid expansion to address the needs of children exposed to adverse childhood experiences and trauma. Finally, item 329-8S would combine funding for the Extended Employment Services Long-Term Employment Support Services Program with the Vocational Rehabilitation Program. This is one you've seen before, so I don't need to go into a whole lot of detail, but this one has been introduced a number of years by Delegate Rich Anderson. I don't think they've had a Senate patron in the past, but with his departure, I was asked to carry that one.
All right, thank you very much for being here. You gentlemen looked anxious. Was there something you wanted to say? Okay, thank you all very much for being here. We appreciate it. Thank you, Jennifer. Next is Jennifer Wexton. Senator, oh, there you are, over there.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. I know that your time is limited and my time is limited, so I really am just going to speak about two.
Well, we know that your time is infinitely more important
two of
than
my
ours.
amendments. All the others have bills associated with them, so should they be reported out of their respective committees, I'm sure I will return to the Finance Committee to discuss those. But the first item I'd like to talk about is item 40, number 3S, which is in the Judicial Department. As the committee may recall, there was a judgeship in Loudoun County that had been funded, but the funding was stripped at the last minute during the attempts to gather up as many resources as we could. The governor's introduced budget restored that funding, and all representations were that it was for the 20th Judicial Circuit. In fact, the Judicial Department briefing that was prepared by Senate Finance makes it clear that additional judgeship is for the 20th Circuit, which is Loudoun, Fauquier, Rappahannock counties. But I'm just asking for clarifying language in the budget, making it absolutely clear that it's for the 20th Circuit, because it is not in there at this time. The other item that I have is item 3-5.16, number 2S, which is a special condition and restriction on expenditures. That is a disallowance of general and non-general funds in support of a National Football League stadium in the Commonwealth of Virginia. Since 1995, 29 of the 31 stadiums that house NFL teams have received public subsidies for construction, renovation, or both. But a report by the conservative-leaning Taxpayers Protection Alliance estimated that taxpayers across the country have spent nearly $7 billion for stadiums for a league that has surpassed over $10 billion in revenue in a single season. I feel very strongly that we in the Commonwealth of Virginia have a lot better things to spend our money on than helping to subsidize stadiums. This report also analyzed median household income and found, interestingly, that income levels dropped down after stadiums came into communities. Income decreased and poverty rose substantially in those counties that have publicly funded NFL stadiums. And there is a
I
strong.
thought Governor McAuliffe had convinced them to pay us to come here.
Well, that would be a different situation, Mr. Chairman, and we'll see what happens. But I don't think we should be paying them. So that would be this particular budget language. Okay? Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. We appreciate you being with us, Jennifer. Next is Linwood Lewis. Oh, there you are, Senator Lewis.
Yes, sir. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, I'll try again not to trespass too much on your time. First one I have, Mr. Chairman, is one again that the committee is well familiar with. That's 362, number 6S. And that deals with best management practices funding. Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, again, an issue I know you're well familiar with. There has been a huge dip in the fiscal year 18 budget and the amount of funding available down to below $20 million. This is part of what's known as the roller coaster effect. My amendment of 50.6 for cost sharing and 6.88 for technical assistance makes available the amount of funding needed to meet the Commonwealth's agreed upon water quality. I have represented an area where a number of farmers want to implement conservation practice, but their economic situation prevents them from fully being able to implement them. We've seen great improvements in the Commonwealth with our goals under the Bay watershed cleanup requirements. We met the midpoint goals by having a priority and focus on achieving these nutrient management goals, and this funding would allow us to continue to make that kind of improvement. This amendment is supported by the Farm Bureau, the Virginia Association of Soil and Water Conservation Districts, Chesapeake Bay Foundation, and numerous other organizations. Next one, Mr. Chairman, is, excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Let me get the sheet in front of me. 366, number 1S. And this is for Elizabeth River scorecard, Mr. Chairman. Elizabeth River has made tremendous progress and require new scientific monitoring of pollution levels and health along the river bottom is essential to ensure effective community-wide restoration of the Elizabeth River in southeast Virginia. They did a scorecard like this a number of years ago, Mr. Chairman. They did it again with funding and help from the Commonwealth, and it's vital for them to target their future efforts and to continue the great successes that they've seen thus far. And also, Mr. Chairman, the next one I want to highlight is 291, number 2S. And this is a very important one, Mr. Chairman, and it's a large number. It regards funding for Shore Memorial, Riverside Shore Memorial Hospital on the Eastern Shore. Has the sole obstetrical program on the Eastern Shore of Virginia, Riverside Shore Memorial provides critical services to the citizens of Accomack and Northampton counties, all babies born to residents of the Eastern Shore. In 2016, 73% were at this facility. Confluence of factors is placing long-term sustainability of this program in question, including a disproportionate share of Medicaid obstetrical patients served by Riverside Shore Memorial, high fixed costs associated with providing that care in a low-volume setting. The long-term sustainability of the program at Riverside Shore Memorial is at risk, and this service is of critical importance to those citizens. $2.5 million each year of the biennium to support the acute care hospitals provide obstetrical services. It's limited to this particular hospital. The supplemental payment supports $2 million per year in operating loss and $500,000 a year regarding recruitment of temporary physician expenses. Mr. Chairman, I know my time's, if I could just hit one more really quickly.
Yes, sir.
Two of mine are associated with bills that have been reported to Ag, from Ag and referred up here, so I won't even go into them. 377, number 1S. This is one of the 3x3x3 studies, funding for them from the Corps. Deals with Chincoteague Island, which I know Senator Norman is well familiar with. It is facing literally an existential threat to the widening of the Chincoteague Inlet and the inability of Assateague Island to continue to serve as a barrier island protecting the town. We've got a visual aid here that will get passed out either before or after today so you all can see the dramatic difference in this inlet. So what's happening is the inlet is widening laying the town wide open to storms and other events, and also increased recurrent flooding. It could, in fact, be wiped out in the event of a natural disaster, including the town and major aquaculture industry, and obviously the revenue from tourism, which Chincoteague engenders for the entire Commonwealth. Congress has recently authorized a feasibility study of the Chincoteague Island and other islands nearby to study what is happening to the inlet. Interest in this in the Commonwealth are, as I already stated, the aquaculture industry, the citizens, public safety on the citizens of Chincoteague, but also the investments that we have made in the Mid-Atlantic Regional Spaceport Launch Facility site at Wallops Island, which is on the western shoreline of Chincoteague Inlet, will also be affected by the widening of this inlet. So that's what this amendment seeks to do. I believe the other amendments, Mr. Chairman, are fairly well self-explanatory, and appreciate the time.
Thank you for being with us, Senator Lewis. We appreciate it. Senator Servell. Senator Servell, please tell me that I'm looking at a budget number reference of 21 and not 21 budget amendments.
21 and not what?
How many budget amendments do you have?
Whole bunch. 21.
Well, you have 9 seconds per one.
Well, 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of the bills are already dead or rolled into other people's bills, so.
We're going to see if we can improve on that.
Excellent. All right, great. I'll be quick. So, 31S is a DUI study. I've talked to you, Mr. Finance Chairman, about it, and Senator McDougal as well. The number of DUIs in Virginia being charged has plummeted in some jurisdictions, and some jurisdictions charge more than others, and I think it's important we go and look and see why that's happening. DUI enforcement is very uneven across the states, and we need to look at it. That's what that study is. 38.5S is an attempt to save the government some money on judges. We currently have law clerks on about half our circuit court judges in the state. Half have them, half don't. Getting law clerks is a lot cheaper than getting judges. And I think in the weighted caseload study, they specifically said they weren't able to look at law clerks. They couldn't figure that out. The Supreme Court has said that they will look at this and do a study to try and give us a method by which we could look at law clerk usage and maybe save some money on judges, because it's just a lot cheaper to get a law student to process these things than a $180,000 a year circuit court judge. That's what this second study is. The next 3 are vacant judgeships. I will just say that Prince William County, which is at the bottom of the list, is my understanding, has 30 pending murder cases right now, which is equal to about 6 per judge, which Prince William lost 17% of its circuit court judging capacity with the vacancy we have, and that one is critical, as are the other 3. 135.15S VA STAR program. That's something that 2 years ago you all put some more money into. That's a program that benefits the entire state. It's a program where Prince William County takes used computers and they have students refurbish them, and they give them out to schools, to either students that can't afford them or other school districts that need it. There are 46 systems in the state that Prince William gives computers to, including 77 schools. It's a program that returns 3 times the money we put into it. And I believe Senator Vogel put in an identical amendment to mine, and every member of the Prince William delegation has sponsored it as well. 136.5S is Stafford cost to compete. I know Senator Stewart's familiar with this. Stafford County now competes with Fairfax, Prince William, Arlington, Alexandria, and teachers, and they ought to be part of the COCA system. This is the largest amendment I have, I think, and this is what it would take to fund that. 233.1S, Gunston Hall, which is George Washington's home in my district, doesn't have broadband, and the home is pretty far away from the main trunk line, and they need about, I think it's $500,000. No, it's pretty cheap, $145,000 to get the broadband to the building. So it's a state tourism facility. A lot of people visit it. They need broadband, and that's what that funds. 273.3S is a bill that you're going to hopefully see and act favorably upon. Child support enforcement would like to start garnishing independent contractors, given our new gig economy. Right now, they can only go after W-2 employees, and they need a little bit of additional money to be able to do that. And the last one I'll hit really quick is 363.8S and 275.2S, my 2 Widewater amendments. The state opened Widewater State Park last year. We funded phase 1 of construction, but not phases 2 or 3. Phase 2 is about $7 million, and right now we have a state park with not a single employee working in it. The first wide water amendment here provides, I think, $500,000, or there it is, $965,000 a year to fund employees. So there's actually employees at the state park that can help our constituents use this park. And so the other bills, there's a couple other bills which I'll skip, but that's the
Tell
quick
me
version.
which one of those 21 you would like.
That's like Sophie's choice, Mr. Chairman. Ask me to choose between my children, but
Well, the hazardous thing about that is if you don't pick one, then you leave it up to the vagaries of the committee.
no, I get that. That's a really good question, Your Honor. Your Honor. I'm still in my.
You really are confused now.
No, I was looking at my three judge ones, and then my lawyer brain kicked in. But I'm not gonna answer that. I'll talk to you separately after I have a chance to think about it. But I appreciate.
All right, thank you.
Mr.
your
Chairman.
attempt to focus me. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman,
Sure.
could the senator clarify which George lived at Gunston Hall?
Which George? George
Yes.
Mason.
Okay. Second time around, so.
George Mason. Yes, sir. Thank you.
He obviously didn't take many Virginia history courses.
Author of the Bill of Rights, Section 1 of our Constitution.
Next, Senator Locke. Good afternoon, ma'am.
Hello, how are you? Okay, I'll start with item 374, number 3S. In 2017, the General Assembly approved the passage of HB 1547 and its associated budget amendment providing for the distribution of funds appropriated for caring for historical African-American cemeteries established before 1900. And this amendment would provide $64,400 general fund in each year to implement Senate Bill 198, which adds to 266 graves at the Mount Calvary Cemetery in Portsmouth to the list of historical African-American cemeteries, to that list. I will go to item number 121. Actually, I have three for Fort Monroe. I'll start with 121. This amendment provides an additional $1,125,784 each year from the general fund to the Fort Monroe Authority to support additional operating costs associated with the U.S. Army's transfer of approximately 73.8 acres of land to the Commonwealth of Virginia and increase in the payment in lieu of taxes pilot project fee to the City of Hampton of $270,000 each year and additional operating costs and staffing for the Fort Monroe Visitor and Education Center. And item C42 is an additional $2 million maintenance reserve funds for maintenance and repairs at Fort Monroe. The governor's budget authorized $2 million in maintenance reserve funds for FY19. The maintenance and repairs exceeded $2 million. Therefore, the FMA is requesting an additional $2 million in maintenance reserve funds to be authorized in FY20 as well. Item C46, number 1S, is an increase in allocation from existing VPBA for Fort Monroe Visitor Center. The former Post Library is being renovated into the Fort Monroe Visitor and Education Center for 2019 commemoration. So that's the request. And Glenn Oder is here, the Executive Director for the Fort Monroe Authority, if you need an additional explanation.
Senator Locke, you should have made him come up here and do it with a straight face.
He has a straight face.
He does indeed. Glenn, is there anything that you want to say? Unlike your days on the House of Delegates, there was a clock running.
The senator has done an excellent job. Simply stated, we received more property from the Army. I will tell you, this is a high watermark. This is, as of this spring, we will have received all of the property that we're going to be receiving from the Army, because we will have all of it. And it's 121 more acres of land, it's 69 buildings, it's 200,000 square feet. We simply can't continue to meet the requirements that we have with our state MOUs to maintain these properties if we don't have the money to do it. I know you hear that a lot, but that's our dilemma at Fort Monroe. The Visitor Center, we got $5.25 million out of our bond money several years ago. We now have plans and permits, and we're going out to bid next week, and the architect has said it's going to cost more. We just simply need a larger allocation in our bond money, but that doesn't cost anything. We just need to shift our projects around. So we would hope that you would look favorably on that increase. Thank you very much.
Glenn, thank you very much for coming up from Fort Monroe. I appreciate it.
Mr. Chairman, I have others that are basically self-explanatory, but there's one more I would like to highlight.
All right, please do.
Item C 20.5, number 3S, and that comes from the City of Hampton. And this amendment provides $2.5 million general fund in the first year for the redevelopment of the Virginia Seafood Agricultural Research Extension Center in Hampton. And this is a collaborative project between Virginia Tech, the City of Hampton, and the Commonwealth of Virginia, where all parties would bring money to the table and share the costs for the land for the new AREC Center, as well as the demolition and preparation of the parcel prior to the construction. And both Virginia Tech and Hampton want this project to move forward. And Terry O'Neill and Steve Lynch are here if you want any further elaboration on this particular project.
Thank you very much for being with us, Senator Locke. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is, well, Adam, you must have known you were next, sir.
I was
Welcome.
watching television, sir, and I saw you on it.
I'm sure they got my good side, sir.
As soon as I saw Senator Locke, I came down. I have a number of items, and I thought I would just go in order by number, if that's how you guys are handling them. The first is number 01S, and this is for a bill that's still evolving that I'll be introducing tomorrow. And I'd mentioned it to Chairman Hanger. This would, the legislation itself would allow taxpayers to make a payment to a special state fund that would preserve their ability to deduct from federal income taxes the amount contributed to the fund in lieu of their taxation. And it would have a charitable intent or donative intent because they'd be paying more than they would have otherwise paid in Virginia income taxes. So this is really a placeholder. And rather than actually costing money, it would, I believe, provide additional revenues to supplement particular state services rather than supplant them. But I'll have a bill that I believe will come before you at a later date. Now, item 67, number 3S, is to increase payment for the state share of inmates that are housed in local jails. And this is supported by the Virginia Sheriff's Association and VACO. I think the committee is very familiar with the policy and the additional costs that the localities bear for that. Item 84-1S, this is dealing with the Department of Elections if we were to change the absentee ballot form, request form, that the department is going to give me a fiscal impact statement that it's about $8,800. That's what they've given in past years. So that's an $8,800 amendment. Similarly, line, I guess it's item 84-2S, shouldn't be needed because it's an online form dealing with statement of candidate organization, so that shouldn't be needed. I put it in before I knew that. Then a larger item, number 84-3S, is dealing with the compensation for general registrars to increase that amount. I learned that registrars make, at least in some localities, less than deputy commissioners of revenue, deputy treasurers. And in one registrar of a locality up to 150,000 people, they make less in salary than the treasurer of a locality with a population of less than 10,000. So this would increase registrar salaries across the board by 10%. It would also increase the state share so that localities would not have to pay more for that 10% increase. And I'll zip through the rest because I see there's a clock. I didn't realize before. Number 281-2S is to develop a common benefit application form. This is, when you apply for state services, there's not a consolidated application for state and federal, things like TANF or the school programs like the
Virginia Preschool Initiative or Head Start, that sort of thing. So to explore the possibility of having one application and share data among agencies that would ultimately provide efficiencies and reduce costs in future years. And item 391-7S is a bill for, it's legislation that the Public Safety Subcommittee will hear about banning bump stocks for potential correctional impact. I did receive a physical impact statement for zero, though, or not that it wasn't necessary, but I put it in as well. Wanted to strike 391-8S was for a bill that failed. And lastly, to strike 419-3S similarly for a bill that that failed as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming down, Adam. We appreciate it. There are only a few left, so maybe I should have shared this earlier. We really were quite disciplined this year. We only had 506 budget amendments that were offered by our senators, just slightly north of $2.7 billion. Senator Edwards gets the most fiscally constrained award for 2018 because he actually proposed to cut spending by $11,600,000. And Jennifer McClellan gets the reverse award from that. Her budget amendments only came to slightly over $837 million. But with that, I know that Senator Peake is next. And being a man of great fiscal constraint, I'm looking forward to hearing from him.
After following Jennifer McClellan, I felt much better. She had one request for $379 million, so I'm much less than that. Mr. Chairman and esteemed members of the committee, I have several. First, let's start with the Longwood University. That is a very simple one. That is not a request for any money from this committee. That is money that they have. It is their money. We need a budget amendment to allow them to spend their own money to do a planning and planning study, architectural study. They're going to create a new facilities building and a couple of other academic buildings. So we're simply allowing them to use their money. My other amendments, I have, I don't know what I will go with the training center amendments. I have two of those. Last year, a study was done and determined that we needed remediation in the amount of $570,000. That was the first phase of a study. Now we have a bill in to keep the training center open. I hope we'll be able to keep the training center open. To the extent we are not, we would need this money to complete the remediation from phase one. Have another amendment in for $250,000, which would be the second phase of the study regarding remediation of Central Virginia Training Center. I have two important bills. It's also following what Senator Eben had, $8 million to the compensation fund for local jails. I have one that I submit is no cost and one that is a $53 million cost. Same issue as Adam Eben. As you know, this Department of Corrections is supposed to pick up prisoners who are convicted of felonies after 61 days. There are currently 3,500 of these prisoners that are not being picked up. Localities are being reimbursed $12 a day per prisoner. They used to get $14. They cut it back in 2010 or 2011. So they're getting 12. The average cost is $46 a day. So right now we have an unfunded mandate on local jails of $53 million. That's where that figure comes from. We submit that the money is actually in the Department of Corrections budget. So there is no financial impact because the Department of Corrections has that money, or they can pick up the prisoners as they're supposed to do under state law. So that's really a zero-sum game as well. Or we could take some money, $53 million to make.
Well, maybe you could amend that so that the DOC has got to pay the differential for every day they don't pick them up.
Well, they're paying 12. They're paying 12. If we make
about the difference,
just slight difference. Route 29. We had all the money gathered, $200 and some million to bypass Route 29 Charlottesville. They said they didn't want to go the western bypass. They canceled it. They said they wanted an eastern bypass. I would like some money so we could study that. And I believe those are all that I had. I see my time is up. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate you being here. Senator Chase, thank you for your patience.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope you haven't run out of money yet. My very first item request 419-2S, and this is going to help the Virginia State Police, who I visited. It's an $800,000 general fund request, and what's happening is we have a backlog of background checks, which are meaning that our private school teachers, our public school teachers, people who are in business, like in my business, the insurance business, when we sign someone up for the business, they have to get a background check. Well, because the Virginia State Police is backed up, this isn't being done. So I actually, and this is supported, by the way, by the Virginia State Police. Obviously, they might like $800,000. But I went down to the headquarters there at the Virginia State Police and actually sat down and met with Colonel Flaherty and their folks there just to get a feel for whether this was something that basically was an automation that would improve the process and turning that away from more of a manual process where they are now, and discovered an 80-20 issue where basically VITA is operating 20% of their operation, and it's causing a lot of trouble. This is hopefully going to help them to bring 100% of their IT operation back into place, but it would definitely help with the background check system. That's my first request, my big ask. And I also found out, by the way, on that last one, they had already done an RFI and an RFP, and it was estimated $150,000 to do a study, but it sounds like it's a public safety issue that really needs to be taken care of. Their RFP was estimated by a vendor at $800,000. That's where I came up with the number for that. Just wanted to be clear. Okay, and so I've already addressed item 419, 1S for the study is $150,000, and DSS is fine with this bill, this budget amendment. Going on to privileges and elections, and my friends in privileges and elections. Clarabelle Wheeler asked me, she's the first vice chairman of State Board of Elections. This is not on behalf of State Board of Elections, but item 83-5S, this would be $10,000, which was the amount they thought would be needed to address an issue with GIS maps and making sure across the state that they match. The electoral board and general registrar of each county, city, or town shall conduct this review by comparing the information in the voter registration system with the boundaries of the district and precincts set out in a GIS map of the locality. And it's just kind of doing some cleanup there and making sure that we have a secure election. I have 1 second now. Senate Bill 20 passed out of the Senate last year. This is less money than I asked for last year, but I do want to remind you that you all passed this last year. I'm asking in item 271 1S, $50,000. And basically what this would do, it's the whole bill that we talked about, the Red Tape Reduction Commission, which you remember last year because this body, it passed out, so I'm not going to go into and elaborate on that. And then Senate Bill 720, I put in a budget amendment. They said $8,800. I don't know why it's that high, because all I'm doing is giving constitutional officers the ability to choose whether they identify themselves by their party or not. We heard in privileges and elections that some people wanted the label, others didn't, so this would give them the flexibility to do that. And so it came back that there was a fiscal impact, which, that's it.
All right, thank you very much for being with us. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Barbara,
Mr. Chairman, I just, out of curiosity with her budget amendment for background checks, does the state police charge to do background checks? What's the cost? $25? Is that for private individuals or for entities?
I don't see Wayne Huggins in here. He had to go upstairs. So I don't know, I don't have that information with me. I can find out for you.
We'll find out for him.
Okay.
Thank you,
very good.
Amanda. Appreciate it. Barbara, do you want to present, or are you just enjoying absorbing all this information? Senator Favolo.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I will not go over every budget amendment, but I'll just go over my priorities.
Do you have more than one?
Well, I have a few. I do have a top priority, though, which actually does not cost money, even though it has an impact statement. My absolute top priority is the kinship care assistance, which would be allowing relatives to step up and take care of kin who are already in foster care. So we're merely transferring payments that we would be spending on, to help foster care parents. We'd be sending those dollars to actual relatives. There's a $45,000 or $47,000 general fund request. And the Department of Social Services has a very large budget. They did not ask for that money. The Budget and Planning Office decided that $47,000 would just be a nice thing to have in case something unexpected came up. This can be done within the budget of the Department of Social Services.
There are a lot of requests out there for nice things they'd like to have.
Yeah, well, just please don't get waylaid by that request. Okay, under the education, I chaired a subcommittee on school leadership and academic outcomes, and this was part of the joint committee that the General Assembly established on K through 12 reform. A couple of recommendations came out of that committee, and they do have budget implications. One's for $250,000 to actually help low-performing schools implement some teacher mentorship programs and on-site coaching for teachers. And oftentimes these arrangements are done with universities, and it would be for teachers and principals, because we were getting to the school leadership issue. I asked for $500,000 so the Department of Education could evaluate community school models and to promote the community school models that actually have evaluation data associated with it that show they make a difference. Because we found in our committee that some support services being provided on site actually does help with academic outcomes. And then we asked for $1 million for, again, this was also related to school leadership and training. Community health. The federally qualified community health centers have seen an incredible increase in the uninsured population because the uninsured population really doesn't have many places to go except the hospital centers and these community health centers. They're asking for $2 million. I have several Medicaid-related, and I think you all are aware. Oh, my goodness. All right, I won't go through that. I did ask for $100,000 for the Virginia Employment Commission because I have a paid family leave proposal that I want the Virginia Employment Commission to sort of put some flesh on and to come up with something that would be workable. And I guess I'm done. One other quick thing, I can save you some additional money. Senate Bill 120, which was sent to Finance because there was thought that dollars were needed to support ABC. This recommendation came out of the Commission on Youth. We worked very closely with ABC. The charge to ABC is to sit down with Chev and perhaps representatives of universities directly to come up with an educational program on intervening with illicit drug use if a student happened to have taken an illicit drug. How do you intervene? How do you stop it? How do you prevent that from happening? We had a member of the Commission on Youth whose daughter died at UVA. She was a Jefferson Scholar, and there was no way to intervene. She really was unaware of how dangerous it was to use this recreational drug. So we're trying to get that out. ABC told us they could do it without any money because they're good at convening meetings, and they worked with the Commission on Youth. So I encourage you to talk to Travis Hill, but we do not expect there to be a budget implication. This is Senate Bill 120. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Barbara, we appreciate it. Senator DeSteffe, you were awake over there, sir.
Thank you, sir. Members of the committee, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Co-Chairman. The first one is item 13S, and this is an amendment we do every year to appropriate the money that's put in the dedicated special revenue fund for the Friends of Chesapeake Bay license plate into the Chesapeake Bay Restoration Fund for recommendations by the Chesapeake Bay Restoration Fund Committee. Since I'm on the committee, they've asked me to carry the budget amendment, so here it is. Second one, item 119-1S. This amendment reduces the non-general appropriation funds, so it means we basically add back to the budget $5.8 million out of DPOR's Regulatory Enforcement Fund. The third one, item 213-1S. This provides $50,000 in general fund, requests $50,000 for Tidewater Buildings Association to implement a program where they provide grants to veterans that are no longer homeless. And it teaches them a trade, very good workforce development one. The next one is a $100,000 amendment to request for Uniformed Military Overseas Voting Act. So for our deployed military overseas, it's $100,000 to put together a pilot program for them. And the last one, whoops, two left. The next one is $50,000 to do a first-year development of a plan to expand the bike facility at First Landing State Park to do a mountain bike trail similar to what we have at First Landing State Park. And then the last one is a Line of Duty Act health insurance benefit for those who were caught between the time they were disabled from law enforcement to the time they've had children on their plan afterwards. I believe there's 6 people affected. It's about $100,000 for the year. And that's all I have, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Co-Chairman, members of the committee.
Thank you very much, Bill. We appreciate you taking the time to come down.
Not a problem, sir. 55 seconds left.
And the last shall be first.
Sir, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Senator Mason, how are you,
Thank you, sir. Appreciate the opportunity to bring up the rear, and this
Okay.
what must be a mind-numbing exercise for y'all, so thank you for your time.
Well, you've showed some restraints, and I'm damn proud of you.
Yes, sir, a tiny little percentile. No, nowhere near that 2% the whole body is asking for, sir. My first number is 83, language only. Senator Evans right. I think the line in the budget speaks to if a locality supplements a registrar's salary on or after July 1st, 1981, you have to do X. So this just asks us to take the compensation board, look at what we're paying them, look at local supplements. James City County's registrar makes $75,000 less than the treasurer in the same jurisdiction. So that'll just outline the size of the problem for us for future budget opportunities. The second item, number 310, currently if you have a mental health facility in the planning district and it is full or at above 100%, which they say capacity is 85, the local sheriffs must be notified by DBHDS by letter to let them know obviously it's going to be a pressure on the jails. I'm asking for that letter to also to go to every legislator in that region. Just certainly we're all aware of the challenges with our mental health system and the capacity issues, but hopefully this letter showing up at your office will make you aware of what we're facing on an ongoing basis and hopefully get more of us in the game on trying to solve it. Mr. Chairman, next item 132. In this budget, we have $800,000 in the first year and $1.2 million for e-media. These are the bits of information and capsules that K through 12 systems can use to learn about what happened at Colonial Williamsburg, the House of Burgesses. So it takes some relief from our local school systems by using WHRO and this e-learning module to give them a drill down and really specific information, 149,000 of them. We have been getting $800,000 from DOE, and a private philanthropic grant to this point has been making up the difference. That grant is gone. That money's gone. So in the first year, we have $800,000, so we'll run $400,000 short of what we need. In the budget, in the second year, there's $1.2 million. So this asks for the additional 400 to guarantee the continuity of service over the next 2 years, so we don't have to cut and then come back and have the additional monies needed in year 2. Finally, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, item number 464. This is $700,000 for property on the gate outside of Fort Eustis. You've seen encroachment issues, and there's been money for that, which often has a local match. This is a little different. It's more force protection. The encroachment issues on the other side of the road. This is an area that Newport News has been accumulating property over the years to try to protect, because we need to change the location of the gate. Encroachment is over here, and we're starting to have security issues and questions as far as the location. This $700,000 would allow us to buy 2 parcels, roughly 30 acres. There is not a match here because Newport News is going to have to put the properties that they have acquired in with this in order to reorient the gate. And there's also about $900,000 worth of more property that they'll have to look for, and that would be city responsibility. So, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much, Monty. We appreciate you being with us. Ladies and gentlemen of the Finance Committee, I am very disappointed to tell you that concludes all of the presenters. So those of you who are tenacious enough to remain in the audience, thank you very much. And with that, the committee will reluctantly rise.